We are so lucky Mars is in my 12th house right now, because I don't think the world would be ready for Mars in, like, a different, more active house with that Uranus.
If Mars was in your first house, I bet you would be doing a lot of social media stuff if Mars was in your first house.
It would be insane.
The world is not ready for that.
The world's not ready yet. We'll go back.
Alright, y'all. Welcome to In the Stars. I am your host, Eli Gomez. Oh goodness, that was my FCCLA voice. You know, you can never take the FCCLA out of the boy. And if you know what FCCLA is, can we be friends, like, point blank period, like right now, no questions asked? FCCLA was what made my high school experience, and also allowed me to travel the country for very minimal cost. And meet people all the way from Hawaii to Alaska, all the way to New York, and even some outside the country. That's right, like, I've been to the national conventions for them, I've also been to many of the state ones, and I just want to say, like, if you are in high school and you're listening, or if you're in college and you're listening and there's an FCCLA chapter, join it, like, point blank period, no questions asked, do it, you will not regret it. You're gonna meet really amazing people along the way, even if you're not interested in family and consumer science. So, not sponsored, just thought I'd plug that in there. You know, you never know where the podcast introduction is going to lead you. Sometimes it'll lead you straight into the guest, and sometimes, you know, you'll say something like, oh, good God, that reminded me of some other crazy thing. Now, I just have to say a couple things. I have a kick-ass guest today on In the Stars. Shelby Lordi is somebody who I am so honored to have in my life. She's somebody who I have studied astrology with, as well as taken lots of classes together with her, and we kind of became astrologers under very similar time frames, even though we had very different experiences getting into the professional side of things. I just also want to say, secondly, I have Shelby's contact information on speed dial. That's right, speed dial. That's because we talk almost daily. We talk all things astrology and just a couple, just random mundane things as well. And I just gotta say, like, all the way from what's going on in the world and the astrology going on, and all the way to, you know, maybe like a couple astrology questions that maybe we need second opinions on, and we trust each other's advice and things of that nature. Shelby is absolutely fantastic, and I am so grateful to have her as not only a fellow astrology colleague, but also someone who I can call friend. With that being said, here is my wonderful conversation with Shelby Lordi. Welcome back.
Hey, glad to be back.
Glad to have you back too, because everyone really enjoyed meeting you on the first episode, and I think it's really important to showcase good astrologers in the professional realm. I always like to showcase people when I can. So tell us a little bit about yourself, just kind of as a reminder for maybe those who haven't listened to that first episode. Who are you, and why, just in a very brief little sentence or two, you know, why did you become an astrologer?
So, I'm Shelby, and I have been an astrologer for Lori Rivers for, well, it's been a few months since I started doing readings in March. I used to be a personal trainer before this, so I got to take the coaching skills that I took from personal training and bring them here to astrology, and I discovered Lori's content in 2021, and I just was blazing through all of the classes, and I just loved everything that I was doing, so much so to the point that now I am an astrologer. So it's really fulfilling, I enjoy it, and I never get tired of the subject material.
We talked about last time that, you know, our stories were very, very, very different as to how we came into astrology, and because we each came in at very different stages of our lives. However, the very common thing that I've noticed amongst any astrologer's journey is that there's always that one moment where they found that teacher or that mentor or took that class, and it just changed everything for them. So that's like the one thing that unites all professional astrologers together, and I find that so fascinating. And for us, it just so happens to be it was that same teacher, and it wasn't the same class, but it was the same teacher and the same mentor. So that was really fascinating, and that's how we met. And now look at us now doing astrology. So
yeah, killing it right now.
Oh, absolutely. We're killing it, and then we're smearing the blood on the wall. Not really, but we're really getting into it, yeah. So, what is it about readings that you just love communicating to clients with, like whether it be through astrology or maybe even communicating, how you can use astrology to live the life that you want to live? Like, what are your favorite aspects of readings that you like to cover with clients?
I love when somebody gets an aha moment about themselves, or they have that moment that really clicks for them. And I'd like to be able to be a catalyst for somebody in a way to help them propel into the direction that they want to go to. So I'd say that's one of my favorite parts about readings. Seeing different charts, I love seeing the variety and the diversity in everybody's chart. Like, there's a beauty in what everybody's chart has to offer. There's no bad chart. There's no doomed chart. That doesn't exist. Every chart has potential, and that potential is in a spectrum. And I just love seeing all the different ones.
Yeah, like, I like that you said that potential is in a spectrum, because not every Capricorn Venus is going to like the same things. Not every Cancer Mars is going to behave and take action the same way. And that's kind of part of the role of the astrologer, is to be able to step in and look at each individual chart and be able to dissect what actually is going on with that Capricorn Venus or that Cancer Mars, to be able to kind of paint the full picture. You can see the gears turning and the parts clicking when you get a really good reading with a really good astrologer. How would you say that, as you've now started kind of forming professional networks with other professional astrologers, how has that not only expanded on what you already knew about astrology, but also made you better as an astrologer?
I love different takes from other competent professional astrologers, and I like seeing the variety that people have to say about a certain sign, a planet, or what a house can represent. You're never done learning, especially when it comes to astrology. You're literally learning forever. So I definitely try to, I've had sit-ins with other colleagues and stuff with, trying to learn more of the nitty-gritty, because I'm at that point where, the basics, I'm pretty much there, but it's just, the real nitty-gritty, hardcore, everything that, paints the picture, the synthesis of the chart.
Yeah, I really like your perspective on kind of professional networks and being able to get other people's thoughts and opinions on what they have seen in their experiences with astrology on certain topics or whatever. Because I found that to be my experience as well, and I'm very fortunate to be able to have those professional networks, to be able to have those conversations with, because that's where, once a lot of people think, oh, I know my basics, I know what Cancer means, and I know what Mars is like in the sign of Cancer. I'm just, picking on Cancer Mars. I don't even have a Cancer Mars, but, I don't know. I always, that's just, my default go-to. Capricorn Venus and Cancer Mars. Those are just, my go-to for some reason. My brain just immediately just beep. But, yeah, so, if you have Cancer Mars, I love you. Love you to death. And no, you're not a pushover. We don't do that kind of astrology here.
I love all placements.
Yeah, exactly. We don't demonize placements, and there's no good or bad placements, and there's also a spectrum that each placement offers. And so you can either act in the highest potential or the lowest potential, and most of the time we act anywhere in between. So it's just wherever you hold your consciousness at. So anyhow, that was my little side tangent. But anyhow, so I had you on back in, I guess it was January, February, was when we originally had you on the first time. And lots has changed since then. And so I'm curious to know, what all has stayed kind of relatively similar throughout your astrology studies, and then what all has drastically changed from being a student to then being a professional?
The amount that I'm learning is the biggest thing changing, because you start with the basics and then you get to intermediate and then you start doing more advanced things, which, kind of like what we were mentioning before, really requires talking to other competent professional astrologers, because it's a lot of Socratic method and people talking, discussing, going over their experiences. Definitely the amount of stuff that I've learned since then has been pretty crazy. I think learning to just not get too nervous with it with readings. I remember like my first couple readings when doing it, I felt a little nervous about it, but then immediately after I was like, oh yeah, I nailed that. That was pretty good. So gaining that confidence in readings is what's going to increase competence. So it's definitely helped there. What stayed the same? My drive for learning. My drive for wanting to help my clients out, help them learn about themselves, help them navigate their path to their highest potential. Because at the end of the day, that's what we're aiming to do, is to help people reach that highest potential.
Oh, absolutely. And I can say the same thing for me as well. Like, my drive for learning never really exited the building. You know, in fact, it just kind of increases as you learn and learn more, because you're like, oh, I can do that with this. That's neat.
You can't get enough of it.
You can't.
All right, y'all. I'm going to interrupt the program for just 1 second to tell you all about something that's coming up on the horizon at Starseek Astrology, and that is beginning astrology. Yeah, you're probably like, well, Eli, did you already do one in May? Yeah, I did. This time I'm actually revising it, like, a lot. And so I am actually going back and kind of going through, I used this Mercury retrograde. I'm like, okay, so we're actually going to do another round of beginning astrology. And this is going to be the complete edition of beginning astrology. And I am really excited about this. If you actually already registered for the original beginning astrology and you attended that one, or maybe you weren't able to, maybe you got the recording, or maybe you even bought it on the Patreon shop. Well, what's going to happen with that one is you're automatically going to be able to join us for this round of beginning astrology free of cost. That's right, free of cost if you already joined or you signed up for the original round. So you'll be able to get the, not necessarily the part 2, but like the beginning astrology 2.0 edition. So it's going to be so fun, and I'm really, really excited about this. So that's something that sounds interesting to you. I have juicy discounts on the Starseek Astrology Patreon. And I also have juicy discounts for the public as well this time. That's right, you can save 20% by using the code SAVE20%. So I will also put that in the link in the show notes as well. So there you go. There you go, y'all. So make sure that if that's something that's interesting to you, you can join me. You can join me in August. I'll have the official date put up in the show notes. Now let's go and get right back to the episode.
Finding a really competent mentor is going to help a lot, because they'll help give you perspective on like the signs and the placements and the planets. Because if you just like read on the internet and you just read what you read at face value, or you're listening to like little Sally, like girly pop here, doing her like, well, if you have Black Moon Lilith on your ascendant, you're doomed. And we don't even, like, use Black Moon Lilith, to be fair. So it's like people just start, like, saying things without realizing what they actually mean. Vetting is going to be the most important thing if you're starting to learn astrology, because there is a lot of bad information out there. So you really want to weed out your sources, or just find people who are confident, people you can feel safe with, people who you feel like if you're in that learning environment, you're not asking, there's no stupid questions. It's just that you want to find like the right learning environment and the right teacher if you really want to get into astrology, and just like, you know, learn something different, learn something new. Maybe you want to learn about Aries one day, and maybe the next day you want to learn about like the 5th house. Like it's always these fun things. Like when I go through my books, I'll be like, oh, let me read about this transit right now, or oh, let me read about this thing in the rulership book. Like I like just randomly picking it up and just going through things. It's again my Mars and Gemini talking, because I'm going all over the place. And Uranus is just right there.
Yeah, I had Uranus conjunct my Mars back, I guess it was around 5-6 years ago, because I have an earlier degree Taurus Mars.
Yeah. So
it was there. It was a while ago. It was probably in high school when Uranus was right there. And I'm not gonna lie, that was some wild times as well. But Uranus conjunct Mars that transit is it's like once in a lifetime thing. Unless like
Definitely.
Uranus transited your Mars like really, really early in life and you live to be a really old age. Like it's for most people it's a once in a lifetime. So, take advantage of it while you can because it gives you a lot of fit and spurt energy. So being able to monitor your energy levels is also something to keep in mind during those times and know how much you can give. Like know how much you can give.
I'm learning that already because it's been very stop and go. Like yesterday, I was dead to the world. Like I did a couple errands and then I felt like I melted into the couch and you would have never heard from me again. And then today I woke up and I'm like, right, I'm going to work out. I'm going to go to my therapy appointment. I'm going to go, get some other type of work done. And then I come over here and start doing the center review. So like, I'm just like, and oh yeah, and I cooked dinner today too. So I can tell, like, the amount of stop and go really happening with it, and I'm like, I'm just gonna have fun with it, whatever.
Yeah, the best thing with Uranus transit is just let go and let God, or whatever you call all that is. Like, I just know the phrase is usually just let go and let God, and I just say that because it's easier. Yep. And so just kind of, just let it go, just let things kind of happen. But, do know how much willpower energy you can give, in certain situations. So there might be times where you are going to have to step up and actually make a good, effort into something and know and monitor your levels as to how much is too much, how much is not. Because Uranus is all about fits and spurts and excitement and little spats of energy. And so you kind of have to really be able to recognize how much of that can you give. Find stability in the patterns, even though Uranus is very, anti-pattern. There's still going to be noticeable rhythm to some things because there's going to be other things happening in your chart as well.
We're talking about Gemini energy too, so it's like all over the place.
It's very ooh, let's read this book. Oh, I read the first chapter. I'll come back to it after I read this book. It's very yeah, I definitely see exactly what you mean about that.
Me out just a tiny bit. But yeah, I mean that's the thing with transits and astrology in general too, is going with it. Going with the flow. Because another transit I have right now is Mars is in my 12th house, and if you have Mars transiting your 12th house, that's a slow time. You're not on go during that time, and I can tell. And it's one of those things that it took me a while to learn that, you're gonna have slow periods in life, and that's okay. Because I think you get a lot of hustle and grind thrown into your face, but, rest is what we need as well. Rest is resistance. You don't need to pull yourself into the ground or to the ground.
Oh, absolutely. I remember when I had Mars in my 12th house. That was a big rut for me. I found myself in a rut. And that was when I was at the crossroads and I was like, look, I need to either take action on my life, because this was my senior year in high school. I need to either take action with where I want to be in life, because everyone in high school, especially since I was at a virtual high school, everyone was like, oh, you gotta be thinking about the future, a dream about the life you want to live. And I'm like, but I want to live the life I want to live right now, and all of this, daydreamy energy is not cutting it. And so I've already been thinking about this my whole life. Why do I need to still be doing that when I already have it very clear in my head, the life that I want to live, right? And so that was when I had to step up and make the decision. It was actually in the new moon in Capricorn that year. It was in January, I believe. It was the new moon in Capricorn. It was in my 10th house, yeah. I keep forgetting, we read each other's charts all the time. So, you probably just, off the top of your head. But yeah, so it was a new moon in Capricorn, and it was conjunct my Venus.
Oh.
That was when I got my first job.
Ooh.
And that was when I also made a lot of changes, because that was when I started taking a lot more astrology classes. I started taking a lot more astrology classes. I started reading a whole lot more books. I started really thinking about what career pathways do I want to go down. Because, I'm a Capricorn Venus in the 10th house. I love climbing a good ladder. Don't get me wrong.
Mm-hmm.
But I do get tired of that after a while, because I do have that 8th house sun and moon. And so after a while, I do kind of want to be able to do my own thing and to, really have the reins on it for myself. I don't really want to be at the behest of other people, right? And so that was really that big realization for me was, okay, so I'm going to get my first job, and I'm going to use that to fund all of the astrology learning content, because that was my goal. My ultimate goal was to become a professional astrologer and spiritual mentor, right? And so in order for me to do that, that's how I needed to do it. So that was how my Mars in the 12th house transit too, was it was really trying to get me to realize, okay, you need to get out of the, daydreamy, you know, whatever everyone tells you. You got to be thinking about your life in high school. So that way, right when you get out, you can get on with it. Or you do 4 years of college and just, do even more dreaming about your life because it's going to suck for 4 years. There's a lot of that. And so I decided, oh no, we are cutting that crap, and we're just going to go on with it. And that was when I had to take the reins for myself. And then when Mars popped into my first house, I was ready for it. And that was kind of how that transit worked. Now, a lot of times people will stay stuck in the rut because the 12th house can be very overwhelming. Because the 12th house is very much, you're looking at all of the possibilities, and the first house is making the decision. Which one are you going down? Because that's where you're going. That's where the energy's going. It's going to take the path of least resistance.
Mm-hmm.
And so use that 12th house energy. Like, if you feel like you're in a rut, chances are there's probably something going on in the 12th house. Chances are. Like, not all the time. There's other indicators. But, in a grand general theme, there's usually something happening in the 12th house. Take advantage of that. And instead of just sitting there daydreaming, start thinking about what your life is going to look like if you go down different pathways. See which one aligns with your interests the most, and then actually start taking action to do it. Because the moment when Mars or whatever planet pops into your first, you're already going to be planning on, like, you already have everything together, and you're already acting the way that you would whenever Mars goes into first. So you're going to already be reaping the results. It's not going to feel so overwhelming.
I was going to say, that, really hits the nail on the head. It's absolutely a recalibration period. And since Mars is in Virgo, when it comes to Virgo energy, that's about refinement, improvement. How can I make this thing better? How can I do this thing better? It's a lot of observing things that I do, or, things that I have said, and I'm like, well, how can I make this better? How can I do this better? I'm also, reorganizing the hell out of all of my astrology notes, because I had, papers everywhere, and I finally put things into a notebook. I finally started going through, videos I've had with, other colleagues where we were just talking about astrology, and I'm picking more information from that. I have extracted a lot of information there, so it's a lot of refinement right now. It's a lot of, I could do this thing, and I could do that thing, and then by the time I get it, it's not going into my first house till it hits 2 degrees Libra, almost 3 degrees. So we got a little bit. We're hanging out.
Yeah, for sure. You got about another month or two, or month and a half.
We got a
probably.
little bit.
Yeah.
We're hanging out.
All right, I want to take a moment now and give a special thank you message and shout out to all of my paying Patreon supporters over on the Starseek Astrology Patreon. I want to say that without patrons, there is no podcast, and there's also no community here at Starseek Astrology. So I just want to say thank you. Thank you all for making it happen. So, we got Lori, Jen, Nicole, Glenn, Matilda, Issy, another Nicole, Loremaster 3000, Denise, with those cute little emojis, Kim, Kirsten, Jenny, and Bethany. Thank you all so much for supporting. And I also see that we actually have a couple of gifted memberships in here now as well. So thank you all so much for also gifting. I just gotta say, I am really excited about the trajectory of Starseek Astrology. I have kind of run a couple charts, I'm not gonna lie. As astrologer, we run our own charts, and the future is looking very, very bright. So I just want to say thank you so much for being a part of the journey, and let's go and get right back to the show.
Where I think we should go with finding good mentors at. Ask their experience. Look at their reviews. Ask them for their experience. How long have they been doing this? Where have they studied? Who have they studied with? A lot of people just say, I learned from channeling such and such spirit what this placement means. I'm like, well, honey, that's not astrology, that's channeling.
I learned from ChatGPT.
Oh, exactly.
Yeah,
and I'm like, well, I asked ChatGPT the other day to make me an astrology graphic because I was not really satisfied with the ones that I could just pull from Canva, right? And edit and manufacture. And I was like, okay, well, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to ask ChatGPT to make me a cool beachy thing. Because I was making marketing for the semi-annual sale at Starseek Astrology. I was like, okay. Mm-hmm. So I asked it to do it. And I even made a TikTok about it because it was so bad. This was probably the worst graphic I have ever seen. God. Let me see if I can find the picture and I will show you. It was so bad. It was absolutely horrendous. And I'm not gonna lie. This gave me pause because I was like, this is what people use to trust writing a college essay.
Yeah, it's not really able to get your chart and your placements correctly. Like, you're better off going on Astro.com. You will get a more accurate chart on there on Astro.com and not ChatGPT.
Oh, Astro.com is great for charts. I mean, obviously professionals use professional software, mm-hmm. but for someone who's not necessarily a professional who just wants to start their astrology learning experience, like, yeah, Astro.com's great. AstroSeek is great. And if you're wanting to splurge a little bit, Luna's also great too. So there's lots of good stuff. You have Luna?
I like that app a lot. It has a very pretty interface, and the ephemeris is really good.
Yeah, Luna is good. I actually use SolarFire, but I'm telling you, I'm never going back to anything else now that I've used SolarFire because I have spent way too much time learning the functions, and I don't feel like using a different platform. But if I have to use a different platform, I don't mind using it.
I hear you.
But SolarFire is kind of my home, and so I'm always on it, and I'm always doing something with it. Where in the world is my AI astrology stuff? Okay. This is the graphic that ChatGPT made for me. And if you notice, my query that I put into it, like what I told it to do, the instructions was astrology-themed graphic at the beach.
Okay.
Okay. That was the whole thing because it was the summer semi-annual sale at Starseek Astrology, and I wanted to find a cute beach astrology graphic. This is what it came up with.
Oh my god! Are there like three north? There's like a north node in there.
I don't
there's
even
like a north
know
node and
what
another
some
Libra
of these symbols are.
And then like there's two Tauruses in there. Like, what? That's insane. I'm sorry, that
why did it put the north
killing me?
Yeah, like why did it put the north node in there when it's supposed to be the signs?
I love that second north node. Just like there's like,
and then if we're even looking at it, what the hell is this symbol? I've never seen it in my life.
I don't know. It's a little bit blurry for me to see it from here. It looks a little reflecty, but
Oh, here, let me turn my brightness up.
It's like trying to be a Virgo, and then there's a North Node, and then there's like a Libra trying to form, and then there is Libra.
Yeah, it's not even complete.
It's trying.
It's trying. It's, I think it just kind of gave up mid-sentence. I think it's just like, you know what? I'm out. Because first off, there's not... Okay, so for those of you who are maybe listening who have never heard of astrology before and have never seen, not saying, I mean, chances are you probably have heard of astrology before if you're listening to this, but let's just say hypothetically, astrology has 12 signs, okay? The zodiacal wheel, 12 signs, okay? That's like the number one foundation to learning anything astrology. The zodiacal wheel has 12 signs. Why was there 13 little sections on there? And some of the signs were not even signs. They were just made up stuff.
I was born under the sign of North Node.
Right. Or I was born under the sign of Leo Virgo.
Virgo.
Yeah. Leo Virgo. Yeah,
The
Leo Virgo.
Virgo.
I don't know what it is, but that was absolutely freaking crazy because, like, come on now, y'all trust this with your college papers. This is what those directors wanted to replace writers with.
Yeah, it's just not going to work. And I think if there's a lot of layoffs around it, I think the companies are going to find really quickly that those mass layoffs were not so good of an idea.
Oh, no, they're absolutely not. And I mean, I even see that as an astrologer who is now doing predictive work. These corporations are going to implode on themselves. I am not concerned about AI, and I am most certainly not concerned about corporate greed,
To the
like
corporate
super
greed.
that much longer.
No.
Like, I mean, it's corporate greed is definitely problematic now, but we're going to see throughout the next 20 years corporations that have prioritized corporate greed and cutting corners. They're not gonna survive. And in fact, it's going to be more of your local mom and pop stores that are going to really be flourishing. And I also think we're going to see a lot more internet, like e-commerce, a lot more of that as well. And we're going to see a lot more of that. And so I'm not really too concerned.
The renaissance, like a renaissance of like quality again, and not like something that breaks in 6 months for the sole purpose that you buy it again. Like, and I mean, I notice that with like, you know, people I talk to, they may be getting into like woodworking, or they're like, you know, making little things out of metal. Like, people are really, actually that's a really big thing with like the Pluto and Aquarius era as well, is like, you know, what can you do? What skills do you have? What's something that you could really offer? Because we're going to get to a point where a lot of these like corporate type jobs, it's not going to be the beacon of stability that it used to be like 20, 30 years ago.
Oh, for sure. In fact, I would even argue and make the case that within the next 20 years, the whole idea of having a career is going to completely change too. And I know every time I say this to my audience, which is primarily college students, they flip their lid, and I'm like, okay, come on now. Like, you all have been, like, we have been taught, I was growing up in the same generation as y'all, we have been taught that we go to college, we go get a job with a college degree. Well, I'm going to tell you right now, that is why I'm doing an accelerated degree, because I don't want to be in college for as an eternity, because I know that when I get out, there is no guarantee that there's going to be a corporate job available, which is why I am doing what I am now. And that is, my friend, the kind of message that I have been trying to share for the last year and a half. So, there you go. There you have it.
I hate to break it to you, but even like back then, like I graduated college in 2012. And, like, my first job outside of that was, like, a retail banking job. So, like, it wasn't even a guaranteed corporate thing. Then I did get the corporate gig, and you could not pay me enough to go back to office life. And the commute. And I used to have an hour commute each way and stuff like that. And that was, I don't miss that very much. I know that, like, with consulting type jobs or astrologer type jobs, there's still that, like, it's more client by client basis. So, I mean, that's its own level of difficulty and hard. It's kind of like a matter of, okay, choose your hard, choose your difficulty of what it may be. But when it comes to when I graduated and everything, like, you know, it took me about 10 years to pay off my student loan debt. Like, that in and of itself, that's a scam in and of itself. I could go on a whole rant about that. But your life doesn't end, like, after a certain point, like, or once you hit your 30s or anything like that. Like, I felt like my life was beginning, especially after that, like, Saturn return moment around, like, 29, 30 years old. So college is not the end-all be-all. There is a whole life after college as well.
Yeah, and then I have a lot of listeners, or at least people who I correspond with almost daily, who they just love the college experience. And I'm like, you know what? That's fantastic if you find, like, I cannot relate, but if that is your thing, what are you going to do after 4 years?
I admittedly liked the walkable part of college.
That is true.
That was my favorite part, was the walkability, because we don't have a lot of that here.
Yeah. Well, I live in an apartment that's relatively close to campus, so it is in walking distance. So I didn't like leave that. Like, whenever I moved out of my parents' house into my own apartment, like that was not an issue. However, I do realize that that's not going to be the same thing forever. But a lot of times people get stuck and they're like, oh, I love having my sorority and I love having, all these things. And I'm like, that's great. Live it up now, because after 4 years, where are you going to find that community? And that, my friend, is what the universe is going to test you with. Are you going to be able to find community on your own, or do you need an institution to do that for you? And that's going to be something that we're really going to see people get knocked upside the head with in Pluto and Aquarius, because for so long, we have been in a society that's like, oh, I find community through church, or I find community through sorority, or I find community through college. What do you notice? All those things. So all those three things, they're all organizations. So when are you going to be able to step up and start finding community yourself?
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. Where are you going to find an organized group of people who maybe do not need corporate funds in order to operate? For example, we're going to probably see a lot more knitting and yarn communities. In fact, I think we're already seeing that. I've seen a lot of that. Like I've seen people on my campus alone just starting clubs with yarn crafting. That wouldn't have been done necessarily under Pluto and Capricorn. I mean, it might have, but it wouldn't have felt as successful because the corporations were going to have a bigger
efforts. Mm-hmm. Yeah, there'll be a lot more community efforts in general, and people getting together, like-minded, like-hearted interests. And also, with a thing with Pluto and Aquarius to be careful of is forced conformity, because we have Saturn and Neptune in Aries, we have Uranus and Gemini. It's a sneak preview of, what we're going to really be seeing. So not only do we really need community, but you gotta build your individual self up. You need to take yourself, you have to hold yourself accountable and be able to be all right, what direction do I want to go into? Because, and it's not to sound cliche, but stuff doesn't really fall on your lap either. So you need to be able to find a direction to go into and just start going, start trying to make something work.
Yeah, and stop relying on big corporations or big businesses to make decisions for you. At some point, you're going to have to reclaim your own agency that you've been giving up, because there's not going to be anything there to make the decision for you. And that's kind of everything that we've seen under Pluto and Capricorn that was really emphasized, and really kind of built up in kind of not impressive, well, yes, impressive, but more so impressively oppressive way. We're going to start seeing a lot of that be oh, beep, poke, stab, and then all of a sudden you're just going to see it all crumble.
Pop some bubbles.
And those community efforts are going to be what is going to help keep everything together. And I don't think a lot of people realize that it's not necessarily the church. It's not the church that's keeping people together. It's not big business that's keeping people together and employing a whole massive amount of people. It's actually the connections that we form with like-interested people. That really is going to be what really drives us through. And I think we're going to see a lot of big awakenings in that, big aha moments. And I see it when I'm doing consultations with clients all the time. I'm like, look, it sounds like to me, you're already kind of with it again. Because most of the clients that I do tend to have are people who are already kind of semi-aware of kind of what's coming down and what they're going to have to do, and that's why they're getting a reading, is to kind of help get, further guidance. But, there's going to be people who refuse to open their minds to new ways of thinking, who are really going to get a slap on the back of the head or by the universe real fast in the coming years.
That's Uranus and Gemini.
I think it's really important.
That's Uranus and Gemini right there, really new ways of thinking, following your curiosity, maybe learning something new, learning how to talk to community members and other people. It's building your individual self up, being able to communicate with other people outwardly.
Oh, for sure, for sure. And I would even also say that, Uranus being in Gemini, trining off with Pluto and Aquarius, yes, that is unrestricted energy. And there can be a lot of problems with that, because when we just let things go, when we just let the water run in the sink, what happens? Well, your bill racks up real fast. However, it's great energy to be able to find new ways of thinking, And you can find that through the communities that you explore. That's going to be kind of where we might be seeing. And so you might be learning those new ways of thinking from them. Or it could also be, Pluto and Aquarius, that's big podcasting energy right there.
Definitely.
With Uranus and Gemini square and Pluto and Aquarius. That's like we'll probably see podcasting get a big boom, or less so corporate periodicals like Today or Us Weekly, or like all those magazines that you can get on at the cash register checkout lane. However, probably a lot more of Substacking or Patreons, or a lot of those kinds of things are going to be where people start really kind of getting a little bit of a better idea of where those new ideas are. Because let me ask you: have you read any of those tabloid periodical things you can get at the cash wrap register?
I've seen plenty.
Yeah, they're honestly kind of garbage. They're not anything of substance.
People are absolute trash. It's disgusting how much they just get up into people's faces. Oh, I need to put a camera on you. I need to get the best shot. Let me piss you off so I get a good shot of this. And now I'm gonna make you have to be crazy. And it's it's legal harassment.
It's such a Pluto and Capricorn thing. That is such Pluto and Capricorn. Trying to get the best shot so that way you can have the best, make the corporation look the best compared to others. It's so stupid. But that's going to be the kinds of things I think people are going to be oh, well, maybe getting the best shot of Justin Bieber leaving the church and then running over a paparazzi is not going to be what gets the most attention and the most money in the future, because it's actually going to be more so, this one creator wrote the best article in their Substack and everyone should read it. It's going to be more things like that. And I think that's going to be more of the Pluto Aquarius energy versus Pluto and Capricorn. And that's just based off my personal experience with reading with clients.
A lot of social commentary.
Oh, for sure.
Exchange of ideas.
So, I've been doing this for a while with guests on the podcast. I always mention a hot button issue that is relevant in the pop, whatever field of study the professional who's on the podcast is going to be talking about. So, today's astrology. What would you say about the people who are very understudied on TikTok, and they say things like, Mercury's where your money's at, let's just face it, wherever you tap into your Mercury, you're going to be bringing in all of the money. It's where you're going to be financially windfalling all of the time. And if you're not financially windfalling, it's because you're not doing something right when you're not using your Mercury.
I say get good, scrub. Go read a book. Learn.
Go read a book. Go find a good mentor. And get the hell off of my FYP, because A, that's not even what Mercury means, and B, what kind of ethics are you using telling people that it's their fault that they're not getting money? Come on now.
That's not even the right planet.
It's not. And
it's
that
not
was actually, I swear to God, that was actually something that I saw on TikTok, and it was on my For You page, and I actually saved the video.
That's pretty bad.
And the lady who made that video, I kid you not, her whole account was about the planet Mercury, and she was making videos that could have been all about other placements. But she was using Uranus energy for Mercury, she was using Jupiter energy for Mercury, it wasn't just Venus, and it wasn't just Jupiter. She was trying to say that everything in your chart has to do with Mercury, and that if you don't accept that fact, then you're not doing something right and you're living in Delulu land. And I'm like, okay.
That's a person I want to tell get good, scrub. Not if you're just somebody learning and you're just trying to find a mentor or anything. It's people like that who get real cocky and just think they're right. And it's no. Yeah. How did you just say that with such conviction? That's like being oh, well, your Mercury's retrograde. You can't organize your thoughts.
Oh, yeah. I have had some people tell me that other astrologers have told them that, and that actually really just grinds my gears. And in fact, one person who came in and told me that, I told them I'd give them a free astrology reading because they actually had a reading with somebody who I have had personal experiences with, who then said something kind of similar. And so I told them that, I've had very similar experiences, and I would show them what a real astrology reading was, and to kind of rectify that situation. So that's also something that I have done before in order to rectify poor astrologership, I guess. I just made that word up just because I don't know what you would call that. But yeah, and so it's terrible what the kinds of things that people say online or in readings who are very not well studied, or just start making crap up in order to fulfill their superiority complex. They have to be the boss. They have to be the end all be all of everything. And I'm like, come on now.
There's nothing wrong with having a Mercury retrograde.
There's nothing bad about that. If anything, that
or
really
any
just means
retrograde.
Yeah, I mean, that just means that the normally Gemini qualities of that Mercury are going to take on more of a Virgo quality. That's really all that means. And it's not that complicated. But a lot of times people think, oh, retro's going back in the past. That means that's bad. We're regressing. Retrograde, regressing, not synonymous. It's people just make that crap up to
That's pretty bad. Jeez.
Yeah. I was also I had commented on somebody's video. It was a professional tarot reader who hopefully I'll be able to have on the podcast at some point. But she was making a video in response to a viral TikTok conflict. She's like, I don't normally do this, but I'm going to go ahead and say this because I have a message that corresponds with that's actually really important. And she was saying that abusers typically use semantical arguments to try and get their way. For example, if the case for this one was that there was somebody who was bringing, I guess it was like a 4th of July antipasto or something like that, and they brought it to this get together, and normal thing, because it's literally just a food plate, it's not something crazy, but the hostess was like, oh, this is a party, not a get together, so we don't bring stuff like that. And I'm like, okay. And so this tarot reader was like, okay, look, that is an abuser tactic right there, trying to make the semantical argument because they feel like that their authority was in jeopardy because the stuff that they made for their party they felt like was not as good as what as one of the guests brought, and so therefore they used that semantical argument in order to make a point, which obviously was not even a logical argument anyway. But I commented, I was like, hey, also, think about the other extreme as well. Yes, thank you for bringing this up. It's a great conversation to have, but I would even extend it to the other extreme as well. As be like, there's people who intentionally blend meanings together of words in order to abuse others. For example, trying to say that respect equals loyalty, or that love equals respect, or that or dependence, love equals dependence, or I think that was the exact thing. And she goes, oh, that's actually a really good point too to make, is that a lot of people, abusers, do that as well. And you can see the same kind of stuff within the astrology community as well, like what we saw with retrogrades, people trying to make things what they're not, or equate just because something is retro that means it's bad. In readings to make themselves sound.
It will never be black and white with astrology. There's always shades of gray. Well, now I'm speaking in absolute, saying there's always shades of gray, but obviously my point still stands. It is a spectrum. It's not always to be taken at face value, and when you're looking at a chart, it's so much deeper than one may realize. What you can really see in the chart, and if you know, you know.
Oh, yeah. And that's what I always tell people, too, is that when you're looking at a chart, you're not fortune-telling. You're not being like, ooh,
you're not
going
intuiting
to find...
This is study, academic study. It's not, I'm going to look at this chart. Oh, you want to talk about bad astrology? Go on Reddit. Go on absolutely. Reddit if you just want to bash your head into a wall. But there was one Reddit post I saw. There was somebody making a post, and they were asking, should I switch from Placidus to whole sign? And I know the question alone is already, but one of the comments was something like, well, I used to do both, but I'll use the Placidus chart and the whole chart and intuit which one to use before going to the client. It's like, no.
My favorite terrible astrology stuff that I find online is the people who use dogmatic claims to assert their bias. For example,
Ooh, yeah, no, you don't
someone
want that.
who goes like let's just talk about class or house systems for a second, right? And you, me, we're kind of each of the opinion and of the idea that there's not one correct house system. There's accurate house systems given certain circumstances. For example, you may default using Placidus, like that's usually the standard, like widespread, like this is what we're going to use. However, if we are given other circumstances like higher latitudes, we might throw in Porphyry, or we might throw in a different house system if we feel if we see that there are other circumstances that might impact the accuracy of a certain house placement. So there's not one right house placement for that. However, whole sign, absolutely zero accuracy whatsoever, except if you're doing horoscopes, because you kind of have to, but that's just because you have to even things out for horoscopes in order to suit a widespread audience. But even then, this is what I always tell people when it comes to whole sign and why I can't frickin' stand it. It does not account for latitude. That is not a part of the calculations. And so you're telling me that someone who was born in Panama City Beach, Florida, is going to have the same chart if they were born on the same date and time as someone who was born in New York with a similar longitude but completely different latitude? Absolutely fucking not.
Right.
Like, get off my freaking For You page. Like, that's not even logical.
Yeah, exactly. Like, you have to take into account where on the planet were you born. That affects the layout of your chart. It's just too general, I feel, and it's like you really do need to take into account like your coordinates. So you're like, okay, here's the spot. This is how this is this curvy part of the Earth, or because the further north or south you are, the more there is that
Well, let's think about it this way: if you were born on higher latitudes, you're gonna be living a different kind of lifestyle than if you were to be born in the tropics. Like, let's just be for real. Like, you not only are going to have different environmental conditions, but you're also going to have completely different just ways of life. Culture is going to be extremely different, because a lot of times culture revolves around patterns.
It's super important understanding culture, generation of a person.
And whole sign just wipes all of that out, because they want to make everyone a blank slate, because it's easier to understand when you're using whole sign. And I'm like, well, it may be easier to understand, but let me tell you, just because something's easy does not make life easy. And so are you actually reading with accuracy? And I don't even want to hear it from the people who are like, oh, but I switched to whole sign and it makes my stuff more accurate. I'm like, well, I wonder what kind of stuff you were using when you were using Placidus, like what kind of interpretations you were getting there. Because I would really like to sit and judge and be like, oh, I wonder what techniques you're using. How long have you studied it?
Pretty much.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. Is there any hot takes that you have on astrology that maybe we haven't covered, that maybe you've experienced?
Your twin flame is not coming back because there's no twin flame.
What, you don't say? There really isn't a such thing as a twin flame? Oh my god, I'm so shooketh.
I know, it's crazy. But
yeah.
You gotta be careful with that twin flame stuff, because that's that promotes codependence. You don't need that. You don't need a partner to make you 100% when you're already 100% as is.
Oh, 100%. 100% today to 100% today, 100%. Absolutely. And I talk about twin flames all the time on this podcast. And I'm like, and how terrible that kind of concept is. Because yes, it keeps people stuck, and it keeps people thinking that they can only truly love one other person. And that there's nobody else out them except for them. Well, what happens whenever that person that somebody claims is their twin flame becomes abusive? And they feel like that they have to stay in that relationship because they're the only person that they're ever going to truly love.
Oh, you want another hot take?
That is problematic.
I was going to say, my other hot take is there's no such thing as the one. I think it's more based off of who you happen to run into at the right time, who you happen to click with.
I mean, I think that there are times, there are certain people who are going to mesh with having the one, what people think are the one. But that doesn't mean everybody's going to. And
right.
Just because so-and-so may be that way, doesn't make their way the only right way just because it sounds appealing to you. So
yeah, exactly.
That's and the twin flame notion just kind of poo-poos all of that, and it's just like, oh, you can only have this one person, and one of them is going to be the runner, and one of them is going to be the chaser, and I'm like, you know what? Let me just chase dynamic. So far away from this idea.
You don't need, if you have to chase a partner, they are not for you. Don't. You don't have to chase somebody. I can't emphasize that one enough. And that goes kind of beyond astrology knowledge, and that's more just general relationship advice. Like, I will say this, if you have to worry about that person you're with constantly in that kind of a manner that, like, they're not really going to be around, that's probably not going to work out. And trust me, I've dealt with that in my 20s. Like, oh, it has to be this one kind of person, sort of a thing, and I think the twin flame thing is super dangerous, so that's like my main reason I wanted to mention it. Again, I think there are certain things that get like taught to people in the spiritual or astrology spaces that can be super detrimental.
Oh, very much so. And I think, too, I would even expand on the whole idea that, you know, if you have to worry about what the person's doing the whole time that you're in a relationship with them, I would say that can be one of two things. It can either be, A, that means that there's conversations that need to be had that are not being had. There's connection that's not there, and that needs to be there. And there's a lot of place for rehabilitation in that relationship that needs to be had. However, I think in many cases that's just by having to worry about someone, that's not necessarily a reason to say that it's not going to work out. Now, however, if either one of or both parties decide that they don't want to do any of that, they don't want to facilitate any sort of, you know, rehabilitation in a relationship, then yeah, it's not going to work out at all, because that's people acting in their lower level of consciousness and trying to run away from their own problems. So absolutely, yeah, I would agree 100% that that's not going to be a relationship that's going to work if there's no room for conversation or any sort of reconciliation, because that's necessary for a good solid union or relationship. And I see it in astrology all the time. So anyhow, where can people find you who might be interested in seeing what you're all about, what you do, and how they can find readings and services through you?
I am on wokeastrology.com, working with Lori Rivers as my mentor, so I am open for natal chart readings and consultations. So if you are interested in any kind of a reading, any kind of, maybe you want a direction you want to go into, if you want like a detailed deep dive into your chart and who you are, look no further.
Us both, like, being in mentorships with Lori has been probably like the best thing that's probably happened in all of our lives too.
Yes, definitely.
So yeah, definitely go check Shelby out over there. And with that being said, thank you all so much for tuning in to this episode. This was a great conversation.
Absolutely.
And I'll see y'all tomorrow.
See ya, everybody.